Hello there, welcome. I hope you can hear me playing around with my microphone settings. I'm Sam Joseph, Dr. Sam Joseph from Hawaii Pacific University, and you may be encountering me partly because you're in my systems analysis course this semester, or maybe because you're taking the online course from Berkeley X. Either way, this video is potentially for you if you want to get help with the Ruby homework, which is the first programming homework in this online Berkeley X class. So given that you're here, it's sort of a, we were assuming that you've been able to sign up for CS169.1X software as a service, and you've got access to the edX website, and you're familiar with the sort of coursework framework. And here we've got this homework 1 here is the first programming homework, and go start at the beginning there. Ruby Calisthenics it's called, and we've got 7 different parts there to help us become familiar with the Ruby programming language. Now, just another couple of words of setup, kind of get into this. I think you really need probably 2 things. I mean, this textbook on VM is the right page. You want to get, I think, a copy of the textbook. It's maybe not so critical for this particular homework, but it's pretty critical for. See now, he turns around and looks for. Does he have? Oh yes, I happen to have a print copy of the textbook. The online version strongly recommended because that gets updated. But it's nice to have something in your hand. Going forward, I think it really makes sense, particularly if you're not familiar with Ruby and or Rails, to read and work through all of the code examples in the chapters in the textbook before you try the homeworks. That will just make them a lot easier, I think. In the Ruby case, there is, you can maybe get away with it more easily. I think, watch the Ruby lectures from Dave and Armando. Read the book. There's not so much. Yeah, there's a few example bits and pieces. Good idea to have worked through that, particularly if you're not familiar with Ruby. And as I do recommend the ebook. I've got it all on Kindle, which I can, I run on my PC. Should I run that in the background? We'll go and find that. Where's my Kindle? Do I have Kindle on this? I'm fairly sure I have Kindle on here. Go on, Kindle. There we go. We'll start that in the background. But what you'll also want, and actually here I'm running, so this is actually a Windows 7 is running on this PC that I've got here, and I'm running VirtualBox, or is it called VirtualBox? Yeah, the VirtualBox virtual machine. And so this actual browser that we're looking at here, this is running in Firefox on Ubuntu in VirtualBox on top of Windows 7. So that's potentially tricky. There are instructions for setting up that VirtualBox thing. I think that's the easiest thing. I mean, you can, in principle, start doing the Ruby homeworks on your Mac box or your Linux box or anything else. The problem is that you might not have precisely the right version of Ruby, and that's all right for a couple of. I think I did start doing that myself actually last year when I did these homeworks the second time around. I started doing them on a different computer, and then it turned out that the Ruby versions were different, and then you get into all sorts of trouble. But you can see here that this is the Kindle for PC, and this is great. You can kind of work through, and you can click through to the paste bin examples, and you can click through to the screencasts. That's just absolutely huge. The screencasts, by the way, are you haven't seen those already. I think if you go to Vimeo.com, SaaS TV, they've got all of the screencasts associated with the book. And yeah, this is kind of annoying. It doesn't work for me on Ubuntu. That's how I end up watching that on Windows 7. What they have got in here, more than 8. Oh, that's a SaaS TV one. Is there a SaaS book one as well? Those are all definitely worth watching. There we go to the SaaS book. And the critical one that I'm talking about here is just getting set up with the. Where's the first one? That's all. Maybe did I miss it there? There's a. Am I seeing the 1.1? Getting started. That's probably it there. Yeah, I think that's probably the one. Which kind of walks you through some of the process that's also here in the wiki page for getting it set up and installed with the local VM installation, which I definitely recommend. But that can be, if you're familiar with VirtualBox and so on, then it's all trivial. If you're not, then maybe there's some stuff to get over there. But kind of, you know, you may be like, right, I want to do the Ruby homework. I would strongly recommend, you know, these things. One, you know, having watched all the Ruby videos. Two, having read the Ruby chapter in the textbook, ideally on my recommendation, Kindle on your PC or Mac, and that you've got all set up with the VMware, so that you've got to this state where you can, as I'm doing here, look at web pages in the browser in your Ubuntu, running on VirtualBox. So once we've got to that point, actually, let me just I'll give you my notes of all the things I'm going to tell you. Is, you know, you obviously read. It's always very useful to actually read all the different bits and pieces of the homework. So I'm terrible at this kind of thing. I'm kind of like, right, I'm going to do it, and I kind of like, I zip past and I kind of read that bit of text, and I read this bit of text, and I read this bit of text, and then I'm like, okay, let's go on. And I, you know, often find out that they've said something important here that I missed. So of course I'm going to, you know, not be following my own voice here. I'm going to jump through. Let's well, I force myself. They've provided the skeleton files for homework 1 in this zip file. I definitely recommend getting that, so we can grab that. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to start downloading it there. And it's done this thing here in the, I forgot what this is called. What is this called? This is Ubuntu. This is the Ubuntu Unity framework, and so that might be another. There are all lots of little things here that are sort of new and unfamiliar, and you can, you know, you're clever people, you can probably get over them, but I'm going to do my best to sort of try and smooth off the edges here, so that you don't get stuck too much. So this is, having clicked on the zip file, this has automatically opened a kind of a view of the zip, and so it's got homework 1 there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the extract button to, you know, you can start looking and seeing all of the stuff, and then it sort of maybe get confused. I think go for the extract, and then get yourself set up with you know, some of your documents. I've you know, took this course and taught this course, you know, integrated this course into, well, there's a whole crazy all this other stuff. You don't care about what I'm doing, but anyway, that was last year. This is this year. I've done homework 1 there. I'm just going to create here a temp. What I usually do, create a temp folder for this, and then I'm going to extract that there, and I'll ask it to show the files. And here we go. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here, I think this is quite a tricky thing. You may or may not notice in Unity that when it's like here, I've got this kind of view. When you do it, you might not have this thing down the side here. What do we call this? This is kind of like a left navigation bar. If you go over there, look at that home folder, suddenly, file edit view. I'd much rather see things in a list like this myself. I'm a big fan of that kind of thing, so I can see the sizes and the dates modified and so on. But so here I've got now, in this particular folder, homework 1, I've got part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of that in there, and so this is all fresh, and there's nothing in there. And I think I was going to say that this, if you haven't got that left navigation bar, there's things, so like there's, you know, main toolbar, sidebar, places, tree. Like I think maybe by default when this all starts up, you don't get the sidebar. I think any sane person really wants to show the sidebar there, so they can kind of navigate around and so on and so forth. But anyway, so that's the first step, you know, which many of you probably will not have had trouble with. We get to, you know, we've got the skeletons of the different bits and pieces on our system. Yeah, so other things, yep, important things there that I think you can probably read. Submission information, yep, submissions, yeah, and so it does take some time to submit and get the autograder to return feedback, so please be patient, that's important. We're not sharing code, I'm not going to show you any of my code here, I'm just going to try and help you get set up. So let's have a look here at fun with strings, that's the first part. So there's 2 functions that we've got to implement. We've already got the template file down. So the first part is palindromes. So it says write a method palindrome string that returns whether a given string or word phrase is a palindrome. That is, it reads the same backwards as forwards, ignoring case, punctuation, and nominal characters. So there we go, and we've got some, and it's a structure of your code like this. And in fact, if we go to here, and I can double click on the part1.rb, and it will open here this little gedit. I've been using the Sublime text editor a lot, but particularly in the first instance, I didn't realize that the gedit had this kind of little file browser down the left navigation side. Again, if you go to text editor and you go to view, you can get the side panel, and then that's suddenly, you know, most of what you need, and probably for these homeworks, that's sort of sufficient. Anyway, Sublime can be installed, or other text editors can all be installed on your Ubuntu instance. But you know, in some ways, you may also want to get down to doing things here. So here we've got here this part1.rb. There's a place for our code to be put in there, and then there's actually some test code as well here at the bottom. That's quite helpful. And so I guess a couple of things. What am I going to say here? Remove that and just hide that into the background there. Yeah. And so without giving it away, because of course that's the important that you work on the code yourself. Let's go back over here. So it says like we don't use loops or iteration of any kind. You'll find regular expression syntax useful. There's a couple of very useful websites here. Ruby.com. That's quite nice. There's some other ones for helping regular expressions. I'm pretty familiar myself with regular expressions. I didn't use that one so much myself, but it's a good resource. If I now click on ruby.org, that's just sort of key. I think it's easy. I think people do sort of a course, and there might be a default expectation on the part of many of us that right, most of what we need is going to be in the course documentation about what to do. I think it's very easy to get sort of stuck on that. There is great Ruby documentation online. For example, for the string class, and trust me, the string, array, and hash are three ones that you're going to be wanting to look at a lot. And you've got an example of all the different methods down here to use. And so if you're really coming to Ruby from scratch, then it's good to sort of look through those. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see that. Anyway, you can go to this page yourself. But so let's have a look here. I think what I particularly want to show you here is about using the terminal. So let's start up with a terminal window. And we've got the terminal window, and I've got gedit running there. That's right, here it is. So this is a good, and I think David and Amanda recommend this themselves. A good setup to have is like your editor there and your terminal window here. And so what you can do in the first instance, you would check. I mean, you may not be familiar particularly with the command line. I'll post some links maybe. There's some good resources on just getting familiar with the Ubuntu or this command line environment. That's something you're not familiar with. But you can type ls to get a list of the different folders that are there. You can type pwd to print working directory. So we're kind of in. If we kind of look here, we've got a visual representation here. File system, home, Ubuntu documents. I can show where I am. What I want to make sure is that I get into that same folder that I'm in, but do that on the command line. So I'm going to start by going over here, and I'm going to do cd documents, like so. And now I've got all of these different folders here. And I'm going to do cd saas. I'm going to hit tab there. Actually, if it's unique, you get a single completion of the folder and save some typing. And we've look in here, and then I'm going to go into TMP, and then here, and then we've got homework 1 there. So CD is change directory, and then here we go, parts 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. So I can just from the command line here, and this should work. Is go part1.rb like that, and here we go. And this is now the output here. This is the test code running at the bottom of this part 1. And one of the things here is I've got I think it's this SaaS virtual machine 0.9.1 is still the latest version. I haven't just installed this from scratch. I'm fairly sure that if you do it all from scratch, you'll get the Ruby thing working here. I know there's some other bits and pieces that, well, as we come to them, I'll mention that there's some various things in terms of getting your environment set up. And that, as I see. When you open, I think the text editor and the file browser for the first time, they might not show the sidebars. I've shown you already how to pop those up. But anyway, so here we've got the situation where the test code is like, there goes the neighborhood is not a palindrome, and that's sort of a correct answer. But Madam, I'm Adam, if we're following the explicit instructions here, that should be when downcased and we've ignored the non-alphabetical characters, that should be a palindrome. So our kind of little internal test here is failing. Now I guess the standard thing what one would do is to start hacking some code here. So we might say, oh, I don't know, let's put in there and what's a good example without giving anything away. I think I'm not giving anything away if I get the David and Amanda are talking here. Some methods that they might find useful, which you look up in the documentation, include string downcase, string gsub, and string reverse. And so if we go here, we can see that there's things. Let's go and look at string reverse, and returns a new string with the characters from in reverse order. And so I guess what you might be tempted to do, if we go back to gedit, is just start doing things in here. Like we might say, if string reverse equals string, and of course the Ruby syntax allows us to do things like we could say return false if string, or return true, and then return false. And I can't even type this without, you know, I must tell you that, you know, this sort of long-winded thing. No, we could just, you know, just save yourself the effort. You can just have the Boolean value is returned of, you know, if you evaluate a Boolean expression on that will be what is returned. So we can just do that, and you might, you know, do that. I think I'm not giving too much away, since that's sort of a fairly standardized try thing that one might do there. But so we can rerun Ruby part 1, and we can see, oh, that didn't work. It's still reporting Madam, my Madam is not a palindrome. So I think that's not giving too much away. That's sort of getting you started. The thing is here is you could then be in this kind of debug loop where you start trying out all lots of different stuff here, and you keep on running this. You know, that would be one kind of loop, and you keep on running that, and you make a change and go back and you go forward. And that's all well and good. One of the things that I spend a lot of time trying to convince myself of, but because it's easy to get stuck. Once you've got some sort of feedback, it's easy to get stuck in a relatively, what's the word? It's a relatively slow loop, because that's where you're getting the feedback from. But ideally what you want to do when you're programming and you're fixing things and you're sorting them out, is trying to make your debug loop as absolutely small as possible, so that it really takes almost no time at all for you to see the consequences of a change that you've made. And so a strong recommendation from me is maybe to have another terminal, and you could be in the same place. Quick way to do that, we go PW there. Oh, I'll tell you one as well. Between the terminals, this is kind of interesting. So you can like copy it, you can highlight something. If you want to copy and paste between the terminal windows in Ubuntu, then you need to do Control-Shift-C rather than just Control-C, and then Control-Shift-V to Control-A, and then CD to that directory there. And that took me a little while to work out. That's really handy then for being able to move code backwards and forwards. Within the text editor, the usual Control-C, Control-V works normally, and that's fine. But just when you're in these windows, it needs to be Control-Shift-C and Control-Shift-V, and that's particularly because Control-C in the terminal window kind of breaks the running process, and may, you know, in this, let's say here, so you do get into the, I mean, I will say, like, I think it's, well, I'll do it here. We'll get the interactive Ruby terminal. IRB, it means stands for Interactive Ruby, and that now starts running. I think this is a bit small. You can run these things yourself, hopefully. But so I can take, for example, I can go in here and I can say, oh look, there's a test string, Madam, my Madam, and I can do Control-C from there, and then at the, I hope that worked there. I mean, you can right-click and you get the paste option there. I don't know. I love doing it with the keyboard. So Control-Shift-V. There we go. I get test string Madam, my Madam, and I'm sort of creating a little temporary Scratch environment here, or one has been created for me, into which I've now got test string like this, and I can see, oh, that's that. So I can now start to explore the different methods here. So I can type test string reverse. Okay, and I can even kind of go and say, oh right. Another thing that I often do is we might sort of simulate the running of the code almost to see what's going on. So I might say, well, if I want to just be able to copy and paste this existing, I mean, I'm really just trying to save typing. If I then copy this over so that the string, the str, is pointing also at this Madam, my Madam string, I can then start, and that can then sort of almost pretend that I'm in the environment here for palindrome. This is not, I guess, in some ways, arguably, one would want to be in a complete debugger environment, but when you're sort of like playing around with things, this is, you know, and just getting used to the language, I think this is really handy. So I'm going to do Control-Copy there, and I can now go over here and I can do Control-Shift-V, and hit that, and you can see, okay, look. So string reverse is equal to string returns as false, and we can sort of see that now why that's happening. Okay, like, look, the reverse of Madam I'm Adam, that's not, although the letters kind of match up, we've got all these non-alphabetical characters, there's the case issues and so on, and we can start to do things like, well, the thing I've got, if I hit the tab key twice, it will often display me all of the possibilities of the different string methods there. This may not I have a feeling that this is a standard feature on pretty much every Ruby interactive session that I've used on Windows and PC. I'm relatively new to Ubuntu. When I was doing this last year, I have a feeling that I had to I had to do some configuration on it. I mean, if you just Google Ruby tab completion Ubuntu, it'll probably tell you how to do it, and that's probably beyond the scope of what I'm talking about here. I mean, you know, in some ways, the critical thing really is if you've got some. I mean, this can be kind of handy to be in the moment and sort of tell you about those things, and then you could kind of do string, and you can just complete one of them like this, and it says, oh no, I need some number of answers. Oh, that's interesting. At least one string count. One. That's weird. Come on, fixed number into string. String count. String. That's weird. 15. I would have thought that I didn't need to provide an argument. That's very strange. But anyway, I can do, what I was going to show you was string C, and then I can do tab, and it'll show me all of the things. You know, you can get all of, you know, if you're sort of having trouble remembering one of your Ruby methods, that's a good way to go. But anyway, that's interesting, that string there. Let's go and have a look there at the string documentation. So, more than that tab completion, having the sort of complete documentation there, so string count, other string. Each other string parameter defines a set of characters to count. Example, a count LO. Okay, so we're counting instances of something that's interesting. I wouldn't expect it. But I mean, I spent, you know, about 4 years ago, I did spend about 2 years where almost every day I was programming in Ruby. Since then, it's been a lot of Python, a lot of Objective-C, a lot of JavaScript, actually. So, you know, you know, Ruby is something that's kind of like available in parts of my brain, and I, you know, get confused then about whether bits of it are Python or JavaScript or anyway. But interesting. I guess maybe it would be string. I was confusing string count with string length. That's probably what I was doing. Yeah, because I guess there's string count, and I can put like an A in there or something, can I? And do. Can I do poetry mode? Interesting. How to read that kind of string? Anyway, I think we're getting kind of sidetracked. What if I left a string still the same thing? Oh, and I now, yeah, somehow managed to like lose, and then you know, this is like a crazy. Oh, I've managed to lose my test string thing for somehow. So you know, that's often the case. You know, you think something has worked, and you kind of it goes weird. Let's do Control Shift copy, and then go in here, and I'm going to do Control Shift paste and have that back, and now I'm going to do string equals test string, and now I'm going to have my string back, and whew. And often if that's happening, I'm going to recommend, how do we get out of here? I think this is where, I've managed to do something quite strange there. Have I not closed a brace? That's very weird. Anyway, and this, when it really goes all horribly wrong, as it's done there, you can just close that. No, I think we'll get rid of that. Goodness me. So that's terminal. Let's have another terminal. That's, well, you know, I think one can learn wonderful lots of things from the errors of other people. Anyway, so here I'm going to just, did I PWD there for this one? Let's grab that again. Control Shift copy, CD Control Shift paste, get back into IRB. Throw away that session. Anyway, what was I talking about? So we were looking at that. Oh yeah. So if we just go there, back to the editor, let's grab the test string again. Control copy just there, and then Control Shift paste over here, and we've got test string, and we can do things like reverse, and then you know, and so on. I don't think I'm particularly giving anything away here by. It's just you can read the documentation on some of these like Downcase and so on. They're you know, they've got pretty good documentation, but I think sometimes there's no substitute for, you know, we've got a little example here and maybe that's enough for you to feel comfortable to start coding with it and putting things in here. But I think having this environment here where you can, you know, just sort of type it in and see what you're actually getting. Oh, what do I want to do? I want to do downcase in there. Like this. Okay. That's really handy, and just sort of gets things concrete. And what I'm often tempted to do is to sort of get something actually working with a specific example in here, and then once I'm happy with that code over here, and it's sort of doing, you know, I get this is like really like almost the tiniest feedback loop that we have. I don't even have to go back up to, where's it gone? This one. Here it is. You know, I don't have to, I mean, I can just be editing the code directly. I don't have to like edit it here and then go over to here and push up that one and hit run, and then, I mean, obviously that comes up pretty fast, but then it's testing a certain sort of thing. Ultimately, one wants to move to the situation where you've got, you know, the right kinds of tests covering everything, and you're not doing too much work mucking around in the internal environment. But, you know, for a simple test case, simple practice it with the Ruby language, I think it's appropriate. But yeah, so having done that and got something working how you want it, you can then copy that and bring that back up over here and stick it over here like so, like that, and then run again, and then go back to running over here and so on. Ooh, well, the test string not working. Yeah, all right. So now, one of the things that might throw you moving forward in this, obviously I'm not going to show you the complete solution. One of the things that might throw you is once you've got that all working, you might have got to the point where this now. What's wrong with that now? Have I not saved it? Yeah. There we go. You might have got to the case where oh look, there goes is a neighborhood, is a palindrome. But I've got that completely the wrong way around now. That's definitely not the right answer. But so here, you know, you might get things to the point that I'll keep that display open. Where you've got the right way around for these two things, that it reports correctly that there goes the neighborhood is not a palindrome and that Madam is a palindrome, and then you'll be saying, right, okay, I've got that working to my own satisfaction here. What do I do next? And the thing is, well, there's also this other word count thing in here. I mean, this first one, this is sort of string manipulation. Now with this word count, you need to produce a hash. Excuse me, and I think there's also some mucking around with arrays and so on in there. And this, I mean, I won't get into it, I guess. You know, this one is, I think, potentially challenging if you're coming from a very strong Java background and so on. As they're saying here, that, you know, you don't want to be using for loops. You want to be looking at iterators like each. So kind of the thing is, what is it all about counting words? You want to be looking at the string class and the array class and how to use each with the, like, so if we go to like I can just type in HTML in there, and if we go and start looking at the kinds of things that you can be doing with what's on each. Here we've got some examples there. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, but so I mean, and this again is sort of although they're having these examples is fantastic. There's no substitute for, you know, copying these into the terminal. I want the other terminal window. That one. Copying them into the interactive Ruby environment and then sort of playing around with them and mucking around with them. I think that's just definitely lots and lots of good fun. But so ultimately, having got these things working, the next thing to do is you'll browse here. You'll go to now here. That's my actual one that I did previously. You'll go to you'll make sure that you've got the right file there. That can get really confusing. One of the first things I learned programming about 25 years, almost 25 years ago. But so if we go there to part one, now what I've got here, this is the output that you would see if you've done everything correctly. It will run these test cases on the server. That's this auto grader, and it'll award you points, and that will be good. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to click the check button, and it's going to run these tests against this file here that was patently not working, and in fact was, you know, the state that we got it into here was completely the opposite of what it was supposed to be doing. Now this may take a little bit of time here, and this is a great example here of different levels of feedback. So, you know, we can see 3 levels of feedback here. There's the feedback that you get at the interactive prompt, which I would say is about as fast as it's ever going to be. There's the running a file locally on your system. Go on with you. It's that one. There we go. Which is, you can argue it still runs as fast, but you're editing in one environment, and then you're coming back to, you're having to switch environments every time you do the debug loop. So of course, the text editor is better for making, cutting and pasting larger bits of code. So there's trade-offs there. But then, so this, now how long did it, I think it tells you, this is what you're likely to, it says there that I think the autograder didn't take that long to run, but the time that it took to come back to me and go all through the internet clouds and whatever, was kind of, and so this is the kind of thing that you might well see if you just uploaded a blank file, or the various parts of it were, what's the word, not implemented correctly. So you can actually see here that they're doing things. They're running test cases. How have I got the? Where's the? Oh yeah, we can see the test case. Like, so for example, that they've got these example test cases here, which are good ones to get working. It's interesting to note that they're not in the skeleton file, or at least the Mattermost Atom is, but the Panama one isn't. So you might have got some code working just for this one in the skeleton file, as it were, but then it doesn't work for these other ones, and they're kind of double checking here, and it's, you've got these then set of error messages associated with each of the different test cases that have been run. And so part of the trick here really is having got something working as far as you can first time around. I mean, ideally get it working for all of the example test cases mentioned. That would mean adding stuff to the to here. You do like other so you'd add the what is it, Amana plan, a canal, Panama, to the, that's the wrong thing, to the test cases here, so that you were checking those each time. And yeah, so you might be lucky and it all works the first time. You might not be so lucky and get things like this. And then partly because the stack traces, this kind of stuff here is actually not of much use to you as the person trying to make this homework pass. This is all kind of like related to the stuff that's running on the server side. What you kind of need to do is put your blinkers on, sort of ignore that and say, okay, what was it they were trying to, this one was like checking that this method was recognizing palindromes correctly. The failure error that I got was, that should be true, it should be, so it didn't work for that one. So if that was the case, what I guess I would try and do is take that, control copy, go back to our gedit environment, and add, an additional test string. No one caps lock on. Test string is equal to that, and then I can just sort of copy and paste this here, there, and it should be, yeah. It is a palindrome, same as Madame Adam. Yeah. So, and then that would, and then it's back to the drawing board and doing more editing locally. And once we think we've got that working, then you can then browse for the file again, making sure you've got exactly the right file, and then do the check again. But that's kind of the loop. Doing it through the autograder online is always going to be a bit slower. So ideally you want to get as much testing done as you can locally before uploading. I'd sort of be an advocate. I think it's great that we've got this autograder framework. It's fantastic. So I would love to see the full test cases locally. I think it would potentially save a lot of time if we're able to run the full test suite locally ourselves. Of course, the danger with that is potentially if you provide the entire test suite, then you can mine that for the answers, and it's not exercising doing the Ruby calisthenics properly. I'd love to see the entire testing framework fully integrated into the virtual machine, the SaaS 019 or 092 or something like that. But anyway, there's all sorts of different ways to do this, and this is the way that the system is at the moment. So, and you need to be aware of that. So I'm going to look at my other. I've been talking about the other loop down using the IRB. Yeah. So moving on, you go into the part 2. We'll find here there's some other exciting Ruby calisthenics. The challenges here, they gradually increase in difficulty, and in these later ones there aren't pre-built test cases. So like in the part 1 we sort of at least had a sort of a skeleton test case at the bottom. In part 2 there's another. They do in part 2 start showing, they say, oh, here's a good way to get started, but there's not any test cases. With here here I'd probably recommend, and this one is rock paper scissors, is copying some of the test kind of data that they've got here and taking that over into how about this, we could put RPS game winner like this. There's a game. I'm just sort of copied that straight out of the web page there, and then so doing like this. If we then go and run Ruby part 2 like so, at the moment that's not doing anything. I say I could just have this do this. Puts what was it going to put? I want to put the wrong thing. Oh no, that's the wrong. And that's the wrong method. Oh no, grab that, stick that there, like so, and save and run. There we go. So it's printing out the wrong thing, and you could write your own little test case sort of there to make sure that it did print exactly what you expect the right thing to be. I think the correct thing here is it should be printing out. It should be printing out this, and so you could go further for checking. Where's the editor gone? Here it is. And we could say, is that equal to that? And then if we ran again, we could go up here and we could say report 2, and it would say false. Is it also put? We could return the wrong thing, couldn't we? There we go. And so that's having created a little test case to try and work out if this is going on. And then this monitor's gone to sleep again. I've got to install caffeine on the new Mac. So I've done these sets of Ruby assignments myself 2 times before already. I think they're definitely reasonably challenging, particularly if you're new to Ruby. Even having done them twice before, coming back to them, moving on, for example, part 3, I got stuck on some issues about hash default values. I think with the same things I got stuck on when I did the Ruby, the same exercises about 3 months ago. It's all doable, but it can be a little tricky. So we've got the Skype chat room, and there's the forums and so on for help. And don't tear your hair out too long. Remember RASP, which is read the error messages. Do get if we go back to here, I've got some error messages here. So remember to read the error messages. If you can, ask a colleague. Asking in the Skype chat is you may be taking this course by yourself and not really in contact with other people. Asking in the Skype chat room is a light way to do that. Don't hesitate to get in touch with me on Skype. Actually, yes, Skype. If you need help from the Skype chat room, then you can find me. My username. You can't see that. It's TANSAKU. I'll put it in the links associated with the YouTube video, whatever. You can get hooked up to our Skype chat room. You can ask a colleague. What needs to be. If you're really stuck. But do read the error message, and when you are asking, instead of saying I'm stuck and I don't know what's going on, be precise and say, I'm stuck on the second part of the Ruby homework, or this is the first part, and I've got this precise error, and you can sort of paste that error into the Skype chat, and if you really can't work out what it is, we'll certainly help you do that. And there's also the forums as well, and then beyond that, there's the Stack Overflow and other forums outside the context of this class, and ultimately, if none of us are helping, you can post there, and I'll be very happy to help you get set up posting to Stack Overflow in such a fashion that will give you positive help responses as quickly as possible. There you go. Right. I think it's definitely time for my afternoon coffee. My brain's starting to run down. The other thing I was going to say there, yes, other things that you might want to be careful with going forward are that I think it didn't seem to have be a problem with part 1, part 2. In part 3, I had some test statements, putting things out, putting things to the terminal there that don't work so well with the order grader. That's which is a shame. That's something it's something to be aware of. You might want to comment out your own testing code before you submit these things to the auto grader. And there we go. Best of luck with the rest of the Ruby homeworks. I think that was everything that I wanted to say for this. Yep, I think that's it. The only other thing is, it would be great. I think this is sort of an open challenge for the MOOC environments. Is what would be really useful, having done all of these assignments, is for us for in small groups or whatever, to be able to sit down and look at, present our own solutions, and see, because everybody will come up with a slightly different solution, and compare, how did I solve this with, how did you solve this? I've done this with one of, I attend a meetup here in my local London for online class people, and we often, we submit the homeworks, and we're keen, we don't collaborate before the homeworks. We're all very believe strongly in the honor code, but then after the deadline, we then sit down and look, we sort of present each other's, and we sort of see, oh, you used a hash like that structure, oh, I see, right, no, I did it like this, and that was and talk about the different possible solutions, and that's really valuable. And we're still struggling with how can we get that set up in such a way that everybody can get the benefit from that, but without tempting people to sort of like see all the solutions before they submit the problems, because of course you really get the benefit from this if you're working on it and you can come up with your own solution. I think subsequently, if you can compare your solution to others, that's I think in the Coursera version of this class, they did have some special forums for that. Again, that sort of relies on the honor code to do that. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. So, best of luck with the rest of the Ruby things. I'm gonna, I guess, push on through. I've completed 1, 2, and 3. I have time to do the rest today, but I may do those and also do the Ruby quiz and provide another little help video. We will see. But I think that's it for me from now. That is it from me for now. Woo, definitely coffee time. And best of luck with the Ruby homeworks. All right, bye for now.